Hi guys, today we're going to continue the read aloud, the seventh most important thing. Before we start, I'd like you to grab a paper and pencil because you're going to take notes when I ask you to, okay? We're going to start with chapter 23. Remember we stopped when Arthur helped the little boy that was thrown in the trash can, right? Arthur shook his head, more annoyed with himself than anyone else. He already had enough problems. The door of the vice president's office opened up on Arthur's left. He forced himself not to look. Let Vice make the first move. Let Vice speak to him first. Squeak came out of the office and passed Arthur. He could hear the faint creak of his leather loafers and snuffling sound that he assumed was the tail end of the kids crying. He was a real shrimp for a seventh grader, Arthur noticed again, feeling bad for his non-existent hormones. Squeak didn't say anything to Arthur. He slipped into the noisy hall like some kind of invisible spirit. Mr. Owens, Vice stood in the doorway of his office, arms folded. You're next. Vice's small, windowless office smelled of stale coffee and body odor. Sit down, Mr. Owens. Vice pointed to one of the leather chairs by his desk. Arthur slid into it, careful not to make eye contact with Vice, careful not to think the chairs were very nice. Well, Vice said, we've had quite a day today, haven't we, Mr. Owens? Arthur shrugged and mumbled, I guess so. Vice leaned back, twisting and untwisting a paper clip with his fingers. Although I find this very hard to believe, Reginald says you were not one of the instigators today. Is that correct? The kid's real name was Reginald? Jeez. Arthur tried not to shake his head at the bad luck the kid had. Abnormally short, gold glasses, and a name like Reginald? I'm waiting on your answer, Vice said. Spit it out. I don't have all day. I was trying to help, Arthur replied sullenly, still looking down at the floor. That's all. And by help, you mean what? Arthur shrugged again. Just getting him out of the trash can? What else? So you go around helping people all the time, do you? Vice said sarcastically. Maybe, Arthur retorted. Vice tossed the deformed paper clip onto his desk. Arthur heard the tiny ping of it landing. Here's what I have a problem with, Mr. Owens. You have a convicted felon. You have been in jail. Arthur kept his eyes on the floor. On the office floor. He pictured all the layers of cement, dirt, rocks, magma, and continental plates below his feet as Vice went on talking. He couldn't be bothered to correct the vice principal's lies. It didn't matter, he told himself. Let people believe what they wanted. From what I can gather, Reginald is the only one who says you were helping him, Vice continued. Every other person in the hallway says they saw you tormenting him, putting him in the garbage can and throwing balls at him. So now I would like you to pause this video and write down, why do you think everybody else said that Arthur was the one who did this? Arthur's eyes shot upward. Well, they're wrong. Here's what I think, Vice leaned forward. I think Reginald is afraid of you and is afraid to give me the truth. And let me tell you, Vice pointed at Arthur, if I see you lay one finger on him again, one finger, I'm calling you your probation officer and you are out of this school for good. You stay away from Reginald. Do you understand me? Now I want you to pause this video and write down. Did the Vice believe in Arthur and Reginald or not? And why do you think he did not believe? Yes, Arthur said. In his head, he replied, loud and clear. He left Vice's office and went back to class. But apparently nobody gave Squeak the message about staying away from Arthur because the next day at lunch, Squeak sat down next to him. Now let's go to the second important thing. What are you doing? Arthur said when Squeak pulled out the chair next to him. Can I sit at your table? The kid asked, his eyes blinking nervously behind his old man glasses. He was wearing a plaid shirt and a bow tie. He carried a carton of white milk and a neatly folded lunch bag. Are you kidding me? Arthur thought. No, he replied, shaking his head. You can't. Find somewhere else. Why? Because Vice says I'm dangerous and I'm supposed to stay away from you. So take off and find another table. Good, the kid said, sliding into the seat next to Arthur. Dangerous is good. He reached out his hand as if they were at a formal event. Now I would like you to write down. Did the kid, Reginald, did he stay away from Arthur? So obviously here, no, right? And why did he want to stay near Arthur? So he said, dangerous is good. Would you think the same? I would like you to pause and write that down. He reached out his hand as if they were at a formal event. Hello, I'm Reggie, but everybody calls me Squeak. Pleased to meet you. Arthur ignored the pale, untouched hand and went back to scarfing down the soggy hamburger on his tray. Seriously, you need to sit somewhere else, he repeated. I'm not going through all that crap with Vice again. There is no law against sitting where you want, and in the cafeteria, the kid insisted. Arthur snorted. Right, Vice says there is. Well, he's wrong, and if he says anything about it, I'll tell him he's wrong. Squeak pulled his seat closer to the table and seemed determined not to move, no matter what. So, your name is Arthur Owens? He asked, changing the subject. Yeah. You're in 7th grade too? Yeah. Arthur tried to say little as possible in the hopes that Squeak would get the hint and leave. Well, I want to thank you for what you did yesterday. Squeak continued in his polite professor-like voice. I'm sorry you had to get into a fight like that. It wasn't a fight. I just scared the guys off. No big deal. Arthur shoved the rest of his hamburger into his mouth and began to clean up his spot at the table. He didn't owe Squeak anything. If he wanted to stay there and sit at the table by himself, fine. It was Squeak's lunch that made him stop. Squeak had just opened his brown bag and started to set his lunch on the table. What caught Arthur's attention wasn't that he had brought what he had brought for lunch. So now I would like you to pause and try to guess what it was that caught Arthur's attention about the kid's lunch. And I want you to write down now the real answer according to the book. Ready? It was the fact that everything Squeak pulled out of his bag except the white paper napkin was precisely and perfectly wrapped in most important thing number 2, foil. My mother likes everything to be neat, Squeak said, noticing Arthur's stare as he unwrapped each item. A sandwich, an apple, and a row of vanilla cream cookies. What can I say? He gave an embarrassed smile. She still makes my lunch. Arthur didn't know what to think. The connection with Mr. Hampton's list was too bizarre. I know it's weird, Squeak said sheepishly. I know I should make my own lunch. Maybe I'll start doing that. He took a small bite of his sandwich and glanced nervously at Arthur. Are you upset about something else? Arthur hesitated before saying, No, it's just, well, I work for this guy who sometimes collects foil. Squeak pushed the clump of discarded foil pieces toward Arthur. Well, here, you can give him a gift from me. And there is lots more where that came from, don't worry. He gave one of his goofy 2 wide grins. I bring the same lunch to school every day. A ham and cheese sandwich, 1 apple or orange, and 6 cookies, usually vanilla creams, sometimes Oreos. Always wrapped in foil. Hasn't changed since kindergarten. The bell rang before Squeak finished the last of his cookies. He shoved the rest inside his lunch bag. So tomorrow, I'll be here again, okay? Squeak said quickly as he jumped up. You will be here too, right? He gave Arthur a worried look. Sure, Arthur replied because he was still kind of stunned. Okay, see you tomorrow, Squeak waved and scurried away. And that's the end of chapter 23.